Hi everyone, welcome to the 2025 Ontario Business Achievement Awards, brought to you by our series presenting partner, Canadian National Railway. I'm Daniel Tisch, President and CEO of the Ontario Chamber of Commerce. Our theme for this year is Building a Stronger Ontario, Competitiveness and Resilience. Because as our country grapples with economic uncertainty, we need bold leadership to secure Ontario's future. That's why we're spotlighting Ontario business leaders who've shown courage and adaptability in driving a more competitive and resilient economy. In this episode, we're celebrating a different kind of business leadership. Somebody who has inspired women to become entrepreneurs and helped to improve the lives of everyday Ontarians. We're celebrating the winner of our 2025 Community Impact Award. The award this year goes to someone who's brought a positive socio-economic impact through her work across Ontario and beyond. She's dedicated her whole career to breaking down systemic barriers and empowering women, girls, and gender-diverse people from many backgrounds. For 3 decades, she's blazed a trail as a leader in the gender equality sector, including as president and CEO of both the Canadian Women's Foundation and YWCA Canada. In 2023, she was appointed to the Canadian Senate, and she's currently Vice Chair of the G7 Gender Equality Advisory Council. So congratulations to our winner this year, Senator Paulette Sr.
I think giving this award was a wonderful choice.
I admire Paulette because she's a visionary. She has a grand vision of the world she wants to build and live in, and is committed to working collaboratively with others who share this vision of a just and equitable world.
I admire Paulette because she is a feminist activist with clear values.
I admire Paulette because she is relentless, powerful, and unwavering. She has always stood up for justice, for her beliefs, for those who cannot be heard.
Paulette's biggest impact in her community has been her brilliant leadership of various organizations working on gender-based violence and other gender equity issues. Her leadership of grassroots community-based service agencies, to national policy advocacy organizations, to international initiatives is always located at the intersection of gender, race, and economic class.
Paulette's greatest impact has been her leadership, showing others they can achieve their dreams. She has forged pathways that inspire change and move us toward a more just and equitable society for all.
Recently, I had the opportunity to interview Paulette, whom I've known for many years. And as we sat together, we had a chance to speak about her work and her passion, the things that continue to drive her to greater success. Here is a part of that conversation. Paulette, welcome to the Ontario Chamber. It's so fabulous to have you here with us.
Thank you, Daniel. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
You've had this extraordinary career of leadership at the community level and the national level, highlighted by being CEO of YWCA Canada, as well as the Canadian Women's Foundation, and now the Canadian Senate. But I want to start just by going back to your childhood. You came to Canada as a little girl from Jamaica.
That's right.
Maybe just reflect on what that was like, the Canada you came to, and the change you've seen over the course of your lifetime.
That experience immigrating here was a very interesting one for me. It's still very memorable in my mind around the experiences that I had settling, trying to fit into my new family, fitting into school, fitting into community. But it was a really good childhood experience, but it was also peppered with discrimination. Yes. and a sense of not belonging. And so when I think back to then and where things are now, I definitely assert my belongingness for sure. And I've certainly been able to achieve a lot more than I could have dreamed of in this country that I call home. But I've also been advocating for change so that because I know some of those same experiences that I had as a kid still exist for kids today and even for adults coming to Canada.
Well, yeah, and I remember we shared that immigrant experience. I don't remember coming to Canada, but it was just shortly before you came. I came with my parents, and it shapes you, doesn't it? Right? It
does.
shapes your whole career and your preoccupations. And in fact, you and I first met. You'll recall when we worked together on Ontario's anti-racism strategy consultations, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about that. I know we've talked about it before, but it was just after Premier Kathleen Wynne, Premier at the time, became the first to acknowledge that there was systemic racism in Ontario. That seemed like such a big deal at the time. We look back now, I think, and say, why was that so difficult? And I'm just curious about your reflections on that time and that process.
You know, it was important for her to do that. She was the right leader at the right time to make that statement and acknowledge it. And maybe it was really most important for the rest of Ontario to hear that. But I can tell you that folks from communities that have experienced systemic racism have known that for a very long time. So, but that acknowledgement from a premier was what's important. And so, and it seemed like a long time ago. I can't remember what year it was, but I remember I was still at the YWCA Canada just before I left to go to the Canadian Women's Foundation. So it was an important time. Things were heating up a lot in terms of the racist incidents that were happening. And that acknowledgement really signified a lot of things. It just kind of made sure that folks knew that what they're experiencing wasn't in a vacuum, that others were also experiencing it. But to have the premier acknowledge that this, in fact, does exist, not just overtly, but systemically, in terms of whether that be employment, whether that be housing, whether that be being able to move forward in someone's career, all of that it all mattered. I'm not sure, Daniel, that those issues have changed necessarily today, because it really, in the length of time, wasn't that long ago.
No, less than 10 years.
It's less than 10 years. But it was still a pivotal moment, and to be doing those consultations across the province meant a lot, because people were able to speak freely and openly and to people in power about what it is that they're experiencing. And so for the leaders of the time, both at the municipal level as well as the provincial level, to actually sit and listen and hear without reacting or denying, that was really important.
So we both remember that time so well, and I agree with you. It felt like a very heavy conversation, but a really important one to be having. And within the next few years after the murder of George Floyd, you saw all of corporate Canada and corporations, across North America stepping up and saying, we want to lead, we recognize that, there is a challenge, continuing challenge with racism. But now it feels like there's some backsliding. What's your sense of where we are right now and how we continue to have those conversations?
I have so many feelings about this, but let me say that I am worried about the backsliding that we're seeing, particularly with corporate Canada and other industries in Canada, and it makes me wonder whether or not the commitments that were made when George Floyd was murdered as to the existence of systemic racism in Canada, whether or not those commitments were real and were meant.
Yeah. It was interesting because we addressed this issue in our Ontario Chamber annual Business Confidence Survey last year, right? We asked Ontario business leaders whether their commitment to DEI had changed, and we also asked them about their actions. And it was interesting because commitment dropped a tiny bit, 2%, but there was a 5% increase in the number of leaders who said, we have a strategy. And I thought that was interesting because it suggested to me that they're avoiding the words, diversity, equity, and inclusion, but they're still doing the work.
Right.
What's the key to making progress, in your view, on the work itself?
You know, it's walking the talk, right? You know, the strategies are very important, and I really hope that that's true. But I also know many people who were hired to lead the work in corporate Canada, in other industries, in terms of DEI, who were let go.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And painfully so, because a lot of those folks went to do that work with great hope. But perhaps as things get tough, you know, what's easiest to get rid of is actually those things that probably the commitment was not as strong.
You've tried to make a difference and to make these very difficult conversations a little bit easier and to achieve progress. And you've had an incredible impact in doing that at the Canadian Women's Foundation, before that at YWCA Canada, now in the Senate. Tell us a little bit about how you lead and how that's made you successful in affecting change.
When I think back to the beginnings of my career, way before these leadership roles were offered to me, I go back to the work that I did in communities, working with families, working with women, working with young people, who taught me how to interact, who taught me how to advocate. And I carry them with me. I have carried them with me all these years because I have shared their stories. They let me into their lives. And I haven't to this day taken that for granted. So I worked in communities across the city, Regent Park, across the Jane Finch corridor, in communities that have been socioeconomically challenged, in areas where families have struggled. But the families that I worked with in those communities taught me dignity. They taught me what was important in terms of working with people in an honorable and respectful way. And so I haven't forgotten those lessons, and I haven't forgotten how important it is, even as I rose in my career.
Let's speak a little bit about the Senate. What do you hope? You've been there now 2 years. What's your goal? What do you hope to achieve in however long you choose to be a member of this institution?
I want to continue to stand up for justice and equality. I want to stand up for the rights for the founding peoples of this country to always be in this space, to always be leading this work. I want to always honor my own roots and where I came from, understanding how that informs me. I want to create a sense of belonging for people like me in spaces like that, so that they can see themselves occupying these spaces as well, and to leave room for that to happen.
We're obviously a business organization as the Ontario Chamber, and one thing that really struck me and I think was quite important to our decision to invite you to accept this award was your work in advancing female entrepreneurship. Tell me a bit about why that was important to you and how that led to the work of the Canadian Women's Foundation in that area.
Wow. When I was offered the role at the Canadian Women's Foundation, it's because years prior to that, I had ran employment programs. I had supported community folks to be able to prep themselves for interviews. I had done all of that groundwork, but one area that I hadn't explored was, okay, so if you want to do your own business, what would that look like? If you want to become an entrepreneur, what does that look like? If you want to leave a legacy for your children, for your family, what would that look like? And so being at the foundation kind of offered me that opportunity to really expand my own understanding of economic development, of economic prosperity, and to see this as a proven path towards that.
It strikes me that two of the things we've just been talking about are pivotal to Canada right now as we seek to transform our economy, which is something everyone's talking about. One is helping people begin that entrepreneurial journey, and second, helping high potential businesses scale. You're now completely steeped in the world of public policy, even more than before. What do you think the keys are to doing this as a nation?
Well, I think what we have in front of us, despite how we got here, is a great opportunity for Canada and for Canadians. So, we now have a prime minister who understands the economy, who understands how to ensure, hopefully, how to ensure that we're able to grow our Canadian economy in ways that perhaps we haven't, and from coast to coast to coast. That's really where we need to go. In terms of public policy, it's about what are the investments that we're making in Canadians and Canadian businesses in order to grow that economy. Because in the past, we've had investments go elsewhere.
Right.
And so we need to actually look at what are the investments we need to grow here at home. And that excites me because in order for us to grow and be strong in the environment that we've all living in, that we have to do that. We have to focus on that. So I think it's how we invest, and to make sure we're investing in entrepreneurs, that we're also helping small businesses in a specific way, because small business is responsible for a lot of the employment we have across this country.
Yeah.
So we need to recognize that.
The vast majority of the employment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we need to recognize that and give it the recognition it needs and the investment it needs in order to continue that growth.
You spoke earlier about mentorship and how mentorship has made such a difference in your life and career, those people who were your formative influences that you continue to carry with you. Mm-hmm. How has that shaped the way you mentor people, because you've become a mentor to so many?
Mentorship is something that helped me in my career, whether those mentors knew they were mentoring me or not. Because I didn't intentionally go out and say to someone, "Can you please mentor me?" But I really watched and observed leaders that I admired. Leaders that were either advocates or in their own careers who really stood for the community, particularly the Black community, but stood for issues around, discrimination and racism in such a way that I thought that was such a bold and brave and courageous thing to do. But they did it with dignity and respect. And I really emulated that in my own career path, because I wanted to be the kind of person and leader for my family, for my friends, who stood for others, And I think it's important that as we think, as young people approach us as mentors, that it's not about, I often get asked, how can I be a CEO? And I admire that ambition. But to me, it's not the right question. The right question may be, what kind of person do I need to be in order to lead in effectively in this changing environment?
Paulette Sr., thank you for an incredible conversation.
Thank you, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
Paulette, you're admired by so many. And we asked just a few people to share their thoughts, experiences, and congratulations with you.
Paulette, my sister friend, I am so proud of you, and you're so deserving of this award. You have so many years of working in feminist spaces, always looking out for those who are less fortunate, always making sure that the voices of those who are marginalized are at the tables where you are and where important decisions are being made. All of that, all of it is who you are and why so many of us love and appreciate you. I am honored to walk beside you, my sister, Ashe, ashe, ashe.
Paulette, I am absolutely thrilled that you won this award, and everyone at the YWCA is thrilled as well. So, Paulette, from my personal point of view, your lifelong commitment to loving your neighbor has my complete admiration. Your work at YWCA Toronto and YWCA Canada was thoughtful, strong, and you were a model for your colleagues.
I am so honored to add my heartfelt congratulations to you, Paulette. You have been an inspiration to me personally and to so many women in the sector. You lead with deep values, with courage, and with a steadfast commitment to justice, equity, and the advancement of women and gender diverse people. Your work has truly improved the lives of survivors of violence, and you continue to show us what leadership that is rooted in compassion and determination can achieve. Congratulations again. I'm so happy to be able to celebrate with you today.
Let me take this opportunity to say congratulations, well deserved, to a wonderful community individual, Senator Paulette Sr. You've given so much to community. You have spent a lifetime in community work. We look to you as a model for what can be done when an individual is committed to support, to empower, and to grow community. I am so pleased that you are receiving this community award tonight. And I want to congratulate the organizers and all those who see your work and see your life as exemplary. Congratulations.
Senator Paulette Sr., what a pleasure it is to know you, to work with you, and to honor you today. We had such a great conversation that touched on so much, from coming to Canada and trying to find belonging and ultimately finding community, and the way those early experiences and your early mentors have shaped you and your contributions to our community as CEO of the Canadian Women's Foundation and YWCA Canada, and now at the Canadian Senate. So for all of these achievements and the legacy that you continue to build, it's my great pleasure to present the Ontario Business Achievement Award for Community Impact to you. Congratulations.
Thank you so much for this recognition. I'm humbled by it. I have never necessarily thought of myself as a business leader, but that's exactly what I've been doing.
Yeah.
And I'm so honored that the Chamber of Commerce has really recognized me in this way. It's been certainly a lifetime. It makes me feel old, but also makes me feel accomplished. So thank you so much, and thanks to all of you for being here today. It's really been an honor.
It was a Canadian politician and feminist, Rosemary Brown, who once said, "Until all of us have made it, none of us have made it." And that's so true about your career, Paulette. Thank you for making time for us, and congratulations once again on winning our award. Your track record addressing gender equity issues reminds us of our theme, celebrating Ontario's strength through resilience. As always, I want to thank our OBAA series presenting partner, Canadian National Railway. And finally, I want to thank you, our viewers. Don't forget to join the conversation. You can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and of course the Ontario Chamber website. Until next time, stay connected and stay inspired.